Hello, well done. You finished induction week and it's week one's coming up now, so you'll be introduced to week one on Monday of next week. I hope you enjoyed the week and you are excited about what's going to be happening next week. And a couple of things I just wanted to do in this podcast was to go over a few things that you should have completed by the time that next week arrives, and also just to give you a bit of a steer for what's going to be happening to you next week. So hopefully by today you will have a lot better understanding of what PBL is all about, because you'll have gone to the PBL induction sessions, you'll have met your PBL group, you'll have met hopefully your PBL tutor. If not, I'm sure you'll be meeting them on Monday, and most of you, fingers crossed, you've actually received the Module 1 handbook. If you haven't received the Module 1 handbook, then what I have done is I've left a whole box of them down in Med Reception. They will be in Med Reception until Monday, but after that time they're going to be taken away. So please go and get it, because you'll find it really, really helpful. It will support the module. The other thing just to remind you about as well, and I'm just kind of whizzing through here trying to find the right pages, but I just want to tell you that we have the Facebook page, which if you're on Facebook and you haven't found it yet, have a look, because I think you will find it really helpful as you go through the module. We also have the Twitter account, so have a look for the Module 1 Norwich Medical School Twitter account and follow that if you'd like to. And finally, the thing that I would like to point out to you this week is that on Blackboard there is a section in week 1 which tells you about the learning outcomes and how learning outcomes work and how they fit together. I think it's something that students struggle with a little bit. Which learning outcomes do we need to know? And I hope that the diagram that I've posted there in the information just gives you a feel of how the lecture learning outcomes fit into the PBL learning outcomes, which fit into the overall module learning outcomes and into the learning outcomes that the GMC have set to us. This probably sounds a bit repetitive, but anyway, just have a look, because I think you will appreciate it. So as you're going on to next week, the topic that we're covering is called conception to birth. It's the first part of the human life cycle, and there are a few things that I just want to tell you about it. So the scenario that you will have, we've got two. They're called compare and contrast scenarios. So what you'll come across is two particular patients, although they're not really patients, because patient implies that you're ill, and actually if you're pregnant it's not necessarily an illness, but you'll come across two cases, and what you should be doing in your PBL is thinking about them and comparing and contrasting them. What are the similarities? What are the differences? And also what I'd suggest that you do is just spend the weekend after you've read them, just thinking about them. Are there anything in them that particularly striking you? Do you have any experience perhaps, or relate to any of the people that are in these scenarios? Perhaps it's someone you knew at school, perhaps it's someone you've known in a workplace or something, but just have a wee think and just try and decide if there's anything that you know in your previous knowledge that you can bring to the discussion for next week. Remember too that we have some clinical information there, so it's also worth looking at the clinical information. PBL works best when you've got knowledge that you'd like to share with the others in your group. That's the brainstorming process, and it might be worth just thinking about things and going and having a wee look at the weekend. What do you know about teenage pregnancies, for example? Is it a real problem in Britain? Everybody says it is, but how accurate is that? And if you are a teenage pregnancy, is that really a problem? So just have a wee think, have a wee read about it, and hopefully you'll bring that back and make a fuller session. If I can just tell you a little bit about some of the sessions that we have on Blackboard already that you're going to be going and seeing. The first one I'd like to tell you about is the physiology session that's delivered by John Winpenny. Students really struggle with this. At times they find it challenging to grasp some of the concepts because it's a big leap between A-level and the year 1 and the module 1 stuff. So what I suggest you might find helpful is just going to NAISH and having a read through of the chapter about the menstrual cycle. And I know that some of you, probably 60%, are a bit more familiar with this topic than others, but I promise that I think it would benefit you all just to read it up before you go there, and hopefully you'll feel a bit more prepared. Maggie Bunting also has 2 sessions that she's delivering next week. One of them is an online session, and what I'd like you to do is to follow that online session. She has a podcast and some material that you need to read in your own time. Just because you aren't doing it face to face Doesn't mean that you don't have to look at that stuff. Please look at it. It is part of the teaching package that we're delivering for this week. And she's also giving a face-to-face session that you'll all be going to. There's also going to be one parallel session this week, which is a parallel session between me and Mark. So Mark's doing about the pathology, and I'm doing one which is about the cell and thinking about life and living and everything, which is, I suppose, taking you back to A level, but also getting you to rethink about that information that you had and see how it applies to this scenario. I hope you enjoy it. This is the first podcast that I'm going to do, and I'm hoping to do one of these for every single week and just give you a heads up of what's coming up. And the other one is that we've got a brand new session for this year, which is one by Rachel Sois. It's a really, really interesting PowerPoint. I've just looked at it and I thought it was very, very good. So it's thinking about the social and cultural aspects of pregnancy and birth and how it can impact upon actually maternal and child mortality as well. I mean, it really is things that you should be thinking about too. So go away, and I hope you enjoy them. And I look forward to meeting you again next week. See you later. Bye bye.